Hi friends, how are you? I hope you're all fine. In this video, I want to come up with a discussion on a very important topic which is there in my mind, and that is impact of coronavirus on globalization. Uh, these are based on my own thoughts. I'm not borrowed them from any newspaper or article, and I am very sure these would be beneficial to you. Now, coronavirus or COVID 19 or SARS CoV 19, whatever way you may refer to it, for the sake of simplicity, I will refer to it as coronavirus. I do realize that it's a generic name, but still, coronavirus, we will refer to it that way in this video. Now, is it right to call that coronavirus has started digging the grave of globalization? Is it right to say that globalization is proceeding towards its end? Well, if we evaluate globalization more in terms of its economic manifestations, or in terms of the volume and value of international trade, or the movement of people from one country to the another, then definitely we might be inclined to believe that globalization has started reducing because of coronavirus, and this reduction will continue in the days to come also. Movement of people has almost stopped. International flights have stopped taking off, and these cruise and ships are also stationed wherever they are. So definitely, movement of people have stopped, migration has stopped, and trade has reduced. So in these respects, globalization, it seems, is weakening. But today in this video, I want to talk about a very important aspect of globalization, which will be strengthened by coronavirus. And what is that? I believe coronavirus will promote global consciousness. It will make us believe that yes, we are all the citizens or humans of the same world. And the way we identify ourselves, the way we imagine ourselves, it's a very important term, it's a very important concept. Whether it's a nation, whether it's a caste, whether it's a religion, whether it's the whole world. All these groups are basically something which we imagine ourselves to be a member of. This was a concept Benedict Anderson, he talked about imagined identities when he described nationalism in this way, that how nationalism came up in a very last 100 and 200 years, how it came up, and people started imagining themselves of being a member of a fraternal community because of media and because of the state and because of the capitalism and all those things. So the way we identify ourselves and imagine ourselves, that way we are proceeding towards globalization because of coronavirus. And I have some very good concepts on these which I will use. The first is, why so? Why this collective movement towards globalization is proceeding? Because of 4 5 points I will mention here. The most important is collective suffering. This collective suffering is something which environmentalists and climate change activists had already told us. They had been professing for a very long time that all world members, that all countries need to come together to fight against climate change and to protect environment, and the challenges and the solution have to come from a joint front of the of all the countries. But and being told about something is very different than being in a position to experience the thing. So the warnings have come true, though in a different context, that now we are actually having something we are suffering collectively. So no doubt we had many natural and man-made calamities, whether we had floods or tsunamis or earthquakes. Okay, these do not differentiate between human beings, but even they were more or less regional or confined to certain localities. Similarly, even the man-made crises like Syrian crisis, they were also confined to a particular geography. At any point of time, whatever crisis took place, whether it was WTO attack or whether it was some terror incidents in some part of the world, or these natural hazards like earthquakes, tsunamis, and all these things, in all these crises, one thing was common was that you could always find some city or some state or some country a few thousand miles away where you could assume yourself to be completely safe and immune from the risk posed by those crises. But today we see that coronavirus has breached all these safe boundaries because the epicenter of coronavirus has proliferated. In all the previous crises which we saw, there used to be one or two epicenters, and thousands of miles away from it, you could assume that you are safe. But coronavirus has dispersed these epicenters, and they are dispersing further. Today, no country is safe. So this is, and more. Now I come to here that the differences between the developed and the developing country world, the West and the East, these distinctions are merging, or they're getting meaningless. The most powerful country in the world today, superpower United States, has seen the death of around 29,000 deaths they have seen because of COVID-19. Italy also is also seeing a similar number of deaths. United Kingdom has seen around 12,000 deaths. And these numbers unfortunately are expected only to rise further. Italy, it was standing at second position in terms of health infrastructure. And United Kingdom, I would say, its fall to coronavirus is even not only literally, it's exemplary, but it's also it has a symbolic value also, unique symbolic value. Why? United Kingdom, the crown. The crown is sick and rested because of coronavirus. They're unfortunately, their Prince Charles, he got infected with coronavirus. Their Prime Minister Boris Johnson, their Health Secretary, they all got infected with coronavirus. Even their Queen had to be shifted out of the Buckingham Palace for her safety. So the crown, the world, even though United Kingdom had already lost its previous sense of hegemony many decades ago, but still it had a lot of symbolic value. And even United Kingdom, as I said, even the most powerful men and women in the world, their crown members, even they are falling sick to this. And even in the developing world also, we saw that Imran Khan's wife, she also got infected with coronavirus, and she got infected from her driver. So coronavirus has demonstrated what we already knew, in theory what we already knew, but we did not have the thought in our subconsciousness. What was that? That the differences between rich and poor, the differences between the West and East, the differences between the developed and the developing, all these differences are meaningless. And West might be able to defeat East, but West cannot conquer death. All these differences have been meaningless today. The second point is, I will again come back to this first point. The second point is, the first was collective suffering. The second is unified response. The way we are responding to it is also more or less the same. All countries have adopted more or less the same strategy to fight against coronavirus. What is that? Lockdown. In some countries, it is practiced more strictly than others. Some where it's voluntarily, some where it's enforced. There may be some differences here and there, but the substance of the fight against coronavirus is same. It's lockdown. The imageries. Now I bring here the third point, and I will merge it with the first and two. And the third is common imageries which we see. What is the imageries these days which is floating around our eyes? The nurses and the doctors, the way they are wearing PPE kits, masks which people are wearing and these doctors and nurses are wearing, and the images of lockdown. So all these imageries which are floating before our eyes, the numbers and the statistics which are there to capture the devastation which has been caused by coronavirus, the way the graphs are increasing, all these imageries which we see will also create a unified image of the world. See, so far, if you compare West with East or developed world with the developing world, the imagination which we had in our mind was very different. When you think of developed countries like Nordic countries, you think, okay, they're very neat and clean roads, people very peacefully, they're talking and living with each other, they're very less disease, long lives, etc., good governance. What used to come when you think of images of a developing world, like any country from South Asia, some slum dwelling people or developing world, there are a lot of poverty, people are getting sick of malaria and all. In some clusters, urbanization is taking place. So there was a lot of difference between the images which we had of West and the images which we had of East in our minds. But now the images which we have of the West and the East are more or less same. This coronavirus has created a system of images which are same. So just like McDonald's and these multinational companies of USA or other multinational companies which created a unified system of images to increase their brand value, and which is said to be the reason behind why we started moving more vigorously towards globalization. A similar set of images now have been created by coronavirus, and it has shown that how human beings, irrespective of their races, irrespective of their nationalities, their behavior, their vulnerabilities are all same. The way people went for hoarding, the way sanitizers and all these things, companies ran out of stocks. The treatment, the medicines, the drugs which we are all using, it's all same. So today when we open our Facebook or our YouTube or social media or even TV media or even print media, in whichever part of the world you are, today you see a similar set of news, a similar set of media and images floating before your eyes. And that is why now we will start imagining ourselves that okay, the differences are less, we are basically the same people. Now, uh, the last time we had such large scale destruction which was collectively faced was probably World War II. Even though maybe it's not right to call World War II because it was more of a war among the European nations, and the rest of the world was fighting more or less as its subject, except a few. Even if we consider World War II as truly a world war, and let us hope that coronavirus does not cause that much destruction as the World War II did. Let us consider for the best case scenario that we are able to control coronavirus in all countries almost immediately in the next few days. This is the best case scenario which can take place. But still, the impact which coronavirus has caused will be far, far, far more than the impact caused by the World War because of something which is present in our days, which was not there in, which was not present in those days, and that is what the communication technologies, the media, the social media, the digital technologies, all these things have really seen a great rise. So, take an example. 6 years the World War II ran for. It was fought for 6 years or so. In all those 6 years, the total duration of videos which would have been recorded of World War would have been much less than the videos related to coronavirus which have been shot in one single day today. Why? Simply because we have more facilities to record, store, even distribute or disseminate or circulate those videos. The technologies have changed. So this media, the presence of these media and technologies will amplify the impact of collective suffering, collective response, and those unified system of images many folds than what happened in World War. So the way World War it promoted especially European countries to realize that their national boundaries are meaningless, that nationalism is counterproductive to them, and that they should start moving towards building a European community. They started building up European Parliament and European Bank and all those things. They started making their international borders porous. Movement of people from one place to another started picking up. Trade increased, and all those things increased. And then at a conscious level also they started seeing themselves as Europeans. In a similar way, this world will start seeing itself as one single world. Because, as I said, collective suffering, collective or unified system of response, and a unified system of images, media, and the presence of social media and technologies, all these things will foster our global consciousness. And as I was talking about response here, let me, I want to explain a little more of it. Our response towards coronavirus is mostly being based on lockdown, social distancing. These words have created a uniform jargon, a uniform vocabulary which will be used by people across the world. And the way governments carry out their governance is very different in different countries. It's different. But lockdown is a sort of governance measure which almost all countries have went for, irrespective of whether they are socialist or whether they are capitalist or somewhere standing in the middle. Almost all countries are going for it. So governance also, the way governance is being carried out is also now streamlining. We're seeing it merging at one place. So friends, collective, how we are moving towards global consciousness because of coronavirus, this collective suffering, a unified system of response, a unified set of media and images and vocabulary and form of communication which has sprang up before us, impact of media, impact of digital technologies. And yes, friends, social distancing, the word I used here, everyone is using here. It's I believe it's less of social distancing, it's more of physical distancing. So we have seen that how companies and corporates these days they are started moving towards more use of digital technologies for carrying out their business. In the days to come, we will see that how the reliance on digital technologies will further increase even after we are able to get over coronavirus because of the fear of such disease. So this reliance and use of digital technologies and communication, since it will increase, possibly these technologies will become cheaper, more people will be using them, and then they will also help in transfer of ideas and sharing of cultural items, and all these things will definitely again take us towards globalization. So now I'm closing out my discussion here, that why I believe that yes, obviously globalization will see a decline as far as trade and movement and migration of people is concerned. But in other respects, when we consider global consciousness or a global identity, whatever way you may refer to it, that will be strengthened by coronavirus, the way we have fought with it, the way we have suffered, and this vocabulary and cultural items which it has created, which are common for entire humanity. So with this, I close my discussion here. I hope this was beneficial to you, and let's pray and let's work together to solve this greatest challenge which is lying before us. So thank you, friends. Have a good day.